Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning to me, really early morning for my special guest today. My name is Thales Peterson. I am the host of the 1% Club podcast. And today will be a very special episode. And the reason is most people that I've interviewed so far, they are all basically coaches. They all make a living just coaching, whether soccer, volleyball, different things. And my guest today is a very, very successful businessman. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into his journey across multiple countries, different continents, and the similarity that all of us have. And that is my goal with our podcast here, is to show everyone two main things. One is success doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, and a lot of times it's a very slow process. And the second thing is, it's not about avoiding adversities, is about learning how to deal with them because they will come. And the reason why it this is so special to me is we're gonna make the bridge between sports, business, relationships, and everything. And in all areas of life, the same rules apply. So regardless where you are, if you are into sports, if you're a coach, if you're an athlete, if you're a parent, if you are a businessman as well, there is one common thing: hardships will come. And most people don't know how to deal with that. So, my goal, my objective is, it's not a matter of avoiding, it's a matter of learning how to deal with yourself, with your reactions, with your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, and all of that. So, my guest today is, he probably doesn't even remember what I'm going to say. But when I first moved to California I used to live in Florida, and then I moved to California, and I met a group of English guys, and we started hanging out. And Gio used to live with Barry. So that's how I first got introduced to him. And we used to go out all the time in Old Town Pasadena. And what I've always appreciated and admired about him was how truthful he was, how honest, how open, and how really, really blunt. So there was an incident where we go over to Barry's house and we're getting ready to go out. And then he just looks at me and he goes, "Man, you got those ripped jeans again? And look at your hair. You didn't even put any gel or anything. So you got to pick up your game." And I was like, wow, that is freaking awesome. Someone is calling me out like that. So this is how I view you, Giovanni Oliva. So he is a great friend. We lost contact for a little while. He was venturing overseas, different places, but he is someone that I always look up to, I admire, and ever since we got back in touch, we have a great relationship. We've shared quite a few moments already that weren't the best moments in our lives, but like we say always, it's a matter of helping each other out, growing, learning from someone else's experiences. So, Gio, welcome, brother. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, to share your story, to give us valuable insights.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on here. And it's funny that story, because sometimes you don't realize, I mean, you mentioned I came across quite blunt. I'd like to think that was my British sarcasm and wit, but,
And I love it.
because I think sometimes when you are being who you are, you got to, it's like, I don't know if anyone plays poker, but it's like table presence, they call it, right? What do other people think about you? But in essence, the game is about not giving a fuck, excuse my French, about what other people think about you. It's about you, your journey, how you're applying yourself, and success comes in different levels, right?
Absolutely.
And so how you measure that can be on multiple levels. And I know some of the people listening and some of the people in your group from all ages, right? You've got some younger kids in there, so there's different levels of success, but it does not come, whatever that is, it doesn't come with hardship, without hardship, should I say, challenges, setbacks. We've both, picked ourselves up out of the dirt, and we're reinventing ourselves and learning from that process, self-reflecting. And I think when you guys go through this, you've got to use it as an ability to look back and say, okay, what can I learn from it? What did I do right? What went wrong? What could I have improved upon? Without regret, because you can't change the past, right? That's where depression lies. And then over worrying about the future. And I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but over worrying about the future, I think is where anxiety lies, right? So I struggled a little bit to say, well, okay, if I want to stay present all the time, well, how do I start envisioning goals and big dreams? The difference being, and this was the thing that one of my coaches that I work with in some other areas, kind of made me realize, look, it's not about not looking into the future. It's not worrying about the future is anxiety. Yep. Focusing, visualization, dreaming, believing, that is a different level of looking into the future. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, Gio, where I would like to start, obviously, whoever is listening or watching, you can tell where Gio is from. That British accent, it is, it is very recognizable. So, take us through where did you grow up, and how was your early childhood? What are the first kind of memories that you have growing up, your family, and take us through that.
Yeah, so obviously the name doesn't fit the accent. So where I'm from in England, there's a lot of Italians. So Italian heritage. My dad's Italian, mum's English. She was obviously a sucker for Italian charm, and I'm the result of that. And a lot of my friends growing up, there's a big community of Italians where I'm from, and it's just north of London. It's a smaller town, it's typical childhood. Actually, come from a broken home, so there was a lot of lessons learned through that. Yeah. But being a father myself, and obviously going through a separation, which you've been through yourself. But again, you look back and you learn from it, and then really big into sports at a young age. I played a lot of soccer, football. Depends who's listening.
Hard to say that, right? Hard to say.
Yeah. Well, if any of my friends from England are watching, then I get text messages abusing me for using the term soccer. But I know, I think most of your audience is US based or Brazil or from what I get, from being in the groups. But either way, lot of sport. Played everything though. I played everything from tennis to athletics. Actually, I was really good at track, 800, 1500, cross country. Wow, I was really small at school. And to get into the soccer side of things, I know a lot of your audience is soccer based. I used to love scoring goals, right? But I was so small that the coach was like, no, you're not playing up front, because it was big old, kick the ball forward, flick it on from the big man. And
the old English style.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, now's a different style altogether. But I played right back for a period. And I was good. I went to win man of the match a lot, and we had a good team. But after a while, I was like, no, I want to score goals. My cousin was really good. He played for Luton, Watford, and then Arsenal. Did the 4-year apprenticeship with Arsenal with Ashley Cole. That was his kind of youth. Yeah. Yeah. In a different town to me. But him and I, when we played together, like, we were always scoring goals, So anyhow, it made the shift. And I think in 10 games, scored 25 goals. And then I was a striker ever since, right? And
not coming back to the back.
No, exactly. I can't defend for shit these days. Well, not that I played much at my age, but it's so loved my sport. And I just think at that time I didn't have a lot of guidance, right? Anybody to guide me. And I'm not, playing the victim with my parents. It was a different time. Yeah. Had to get my own way to soccer practice. Christ, both of my kids playing club soccer. So and I live in America. I live in Los Angeles, right? So so everybody's clear. Whole different ball game over here, right? It's pay to play in essence, which is probably another conversation for another day. And I think a lot of people that can't afford to play, a lot of talent is getting missed out in this country. But again, I spent six weeks in Brazil recently, and they're playing everywhere. It's like walking down the street here. Everyone's got a basketball. In Brazil, every kid's got a bloody soccer ball. It's beautiful to see.
Very different, the culture. Yeah.
No shoes, but they got the biggest smile I think I've seen on human beings ever. it's one of the most liberating experiences ever. Not to get off track, but I wanted to share that. So then from playing soccer, you learn a lot of failures, a lot of things I would hear from coaches, other players, you can't take a free kick or this or that, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
There's always a lot of outside influence when it comes to sport, business, and life. And the moment you start listening to these voices or believe in them, because you can listen to them, you can turn them and reframe them. Some mind mapping tools and some coaching stuff that I know you do.
Yeah.
But the moment you start believing them, you're in trouble, right? You've got to remember your own voice and have trust in that. And I was good at that. I mean, I don't remember missing a penalty. Let's put it that way. I'm sure that I have, but I don't recall any single one. I'll be the first.
Didn't keep that in your memory.
Yeah, I was telling my son a story. We played this five-a-side tournament, right? And it was the final. And in England, the five-a-side goals were low and long. Anyway, I came up and it was the final penalty. If I score, we win the whole tournament. I shanked this thing, nearly hit the corner flag, right? Referee said, "Oh, keeper moved, got a chance to do it again." I did the same thing. Right?
Twice in a row.
Twice in a row. And again, the ref was like, "No, the keeper moved." I went, "I'm going to go bottom left this time," because I was trying to open my body up and place it into the right corner. I just hammered the thing bottom left. And if anyone's watching, you know where I'm going. I'm always go bottom left now.
Yeah.
But it's funny, but you just had to keep believing that, okay, I missed the two. You got to put it out of your mind. It means the way I would frame it is, okay, if I've missed two, that means this has got way more chance of going in. This one's going in, right? So I think a lot of that in life, you've got to keep believing in yourself. You can fail on a lot of things, and I've been failing forward for many years, and if you want to call them failures. But anyway, I used a lot of the sports experience when I got into business. I shifted. I played semi-professional in the UK, and just so everybody's clear, that doesn't mean that I'm good. What that means is in England, if you start a team on a Saturday, you register it with the National Football League Association, and it goes from the Premiership all the way down to your local town, right? So if we set up a team tomorrow called 1% United, if we got promoted every year, we'd end up in the Premiership. So I played at kind of like there's the 4 divisions in the conference. I played at the league underneath that. And some of those clubs pay, $40-50. Some of the players, if they've come from the leagues, like my cousin, when he got older and, he was getting $500 a game for like Tame United and stuff like that. But anyway, my point is officially it's kind of semi-pro. So that's kind of the highest level I got playing football.
Okay.
But it's just a great game. And if you can use that when you get into business, that's kind of what I did. I shifted into sales and finance, and I've always been a rolling stone. And that took me.
Did you go to college in England, or did you go to college in America?
I started at 16, my friend. A very different path. Got into finance, educated myself all the way along the way, still educating myself. What happened was I was in the video game space, right? Working for like a distributor for Take-Two Interactive, which is kind of GTA, early GTA adapter. So
while still in England?
Yeah, while I was still in England.
Okay.
But I took over these old European accounts, and I would have to travel to like all over Europe and try and get these accounts kind of rejuvenated, and just got a thirst for that. And what happened is I got a phone call I was doing really well back then. And back then I think it was like 30 grand a year, which was good money then. A company car, and I was traveling a lot, and I was like 18, 19, 20. Actually, I started as a plumber, but it was way too cold to work on a building site, and I shifted into sales. But that was from 16 to 18, I did an apprenticeship in plumbing. But anyway, then I got a phone call from a recruiter to say, "Hey, listen, we got a job in finance." I'm like, "No, I'm good, brother. I'm earning decent money here." He goes,
"Happy where I am."
I said, "But just out of curiosity, where's the job?" He said, "It's international." He said, "Milan." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Wow.
My cousins we're all from the south of Italy, but half of the family grew up in Milan, right? Because my granddad's brother went back. So I've got a lot of cousins there. I'm an AC Milan fan, right? And anyway, I ended up within 2 weeks, I'd moved to Milan, got this job in finance.
So you got convinced pretty quickly.
Oh, it was like it was a no-brainer for me, and it was my chance to move to Italy. Learn the language better, and I lived literally a stone throw from the stadium. It was amazing. In my apartment block, there was Ronaldo lived on the top floor, the real Ronaldo, the original. and Robbie Keane. Remember, he played for Inter, didn't he, for a
Yeah,
period?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so and that was in my apartment building, and then my office. We were in the headquarters of Inter. So anytime they'd sign a player, I come back from lunch, there'd be all the media there, and it was right in the centre of Milan. It was
Wow, what a cool
amazing experience.
experience. And how
Yeah,
old are you at this time? Like 18, 19?
20, yeah, 19, 20, 21, somewhere in that
Wow.
range.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Actually, I remember I was definitely living in Milan when the Twin Towers got hit. So whenever that was, I was still there at that point.
2001. Yeah.
I remember watching it in my apartment on the TV. Um, but amazing experience in the stadium every week, like in the Cordova with Milan. Plus, we'd go to the Inter games. I got a couple of my best friends' jobs with me in finance, and they had two Italian twins. Italian, like me, grew
So
up in the
that's
UK.
how you got started in
That's how I
finance.
started finance. Yeah, we were
Okay.
selling offshore financial products to expatriates. So all these guys working for the big drug companies, fashion designers that were non-Italians, they had access to offshore bank accounts and things that products that we could sell them, and that's what got me into finance. And then when I went back to the UK, I just couldn't settle. I'm like, I've got the bug now, and I think I bought a home with my dad. Again, timelines get a little fuzzy, but I bought a property with my dad, made some money on it, and I said, Dad, look, and this is probably not a mistake. It was my journey, right? He said, no, let's buy another house and I'll look after it. You go traveling. I didn't know about money and passive income and the things that I'm trying to teach my kids now. And
Yeah.
obviously I've learned over being in, 25 years of being in real estate and private equity. But anyhow, he said to me, and I said, no, I just want to travel and I want to be free. So I backpacked around the world for a couple of years, right? I sold the property and I went to America. Actually flew into Boston, where you're at. My auntie was living in Cohasset. Drove across the states. My brother was living in LA. Um,
Wow.
and then we took like 4 or 5 months driving the states. Then did Fiji, New Zealand, Australia. I got a job in Australia, Sydney. Had an apartment on the beach there, Bondi Beach. I was young and slim then, Tallis, and it was a good time. But yeah, then after all the traveling, I ended up just kind of being in finance and moved around a lot. And I wasn't sure. I came back to LA, met my ex-wife. She's from Pasadena. And that was actually one the nights that we were out together. I still got a photo of us in the soccer. Her friends won. We both won the joint costume prize at the bodega, if you remember.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
The soccer team, and they were the referees, and so that was all their friends. But anyway, we so then we got married, and we lived in like 7 countries in several years. Had 2 kids on the road, and again worked in
Wow.
finance. I was in Dubai, Spain, but I've lived in Barcelona, um, Greece, all over the place, basically doing private equity,
Yeah.
raising capital for real estate, stuff like that. Got back in
Wow.
2016 here to the States with the kids. That's kind of when fell back into or had the kids in and started getting into the US soccer and things like that. But that's really been the journey. And then since then, there's been a lot of challenges and a lot of things I've done. And I would say the biggest lesson that I've taken, I've done a lot of things that I haven't been passionate about.
Yeah.
I moved into the gold business. I was selling physical gold and silver, and good money, but just no passion in it. No passion
No
and
fulfillment.
no fulfillment. And when you're chasing paychecks and you're not chasing purpose as a man, it comes across. And for me personally, the journey. I'm happy to be vulnerable and share a lot of it. I put a lot of weight on. I got to like 260. I went through this separation, which has been pretty recent. Lost respect for myself. Saw maybe people around me that I became that person that was maybe more of a talker than a doer. Realized it was a moment that I needed to shift, self-reflect, start figuring out, okay, well, how do you forgive yourself firstly? Because I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
How do you analyze the things that you need to work on? But also you've got to be gentle with yourself in this process and hard at the same time. But there's times to forgive and then there's times to reset. So what I learned, and I lost a lot of weight now, 40, 50 pounds down from where I was. I'm training every day. I do a lot of fasting. The biggest thing I would say within all of that part of it, because I failed so many times in the last 15 years to get the weight off, on and off, and I could have easily given up and ended up being that guy that just sits there, 300 pounds on the sofa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if other people give up on you, that's on them. If you give up on yourself, that's on you. So ended up real, and the one thing I took from it, because what would happen is every time I would start something, a weight loss journey or whatever it may be, I'd have a bad day and it would be me done for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'd spiral. And
Yeah.
this can happen in sports, right? You can miss a penalty, you can miss a shot, and if that stays in your head every time you get one-on-one with a keeper or a penalty, you can go into a spiral for a long period of time. There's a lot of, you see a lot of these pros come from one club to another club, they're on fire, and a lot of times you're like, why can't they perform? There's a lot of elements to that, from cultural
Yeah.
differences, team, and all this, but most of it is mindset. Right. So what I
Yeah.
learned for me, and this is my big thing that I want to share with people, is when you make a mistake and you fuck up on your plan, which you will do it. It's a fact.
There's no
Try,
way you won't.
yeah. Do not compound it. Don't, like, if you like today, I'm fasting. Let's say I don't know, I break and I eat. Just don't do the same tomorrow, right? If I'm sustaining from coffee for a day and I do it today, don't do the same tomorrow. So break that cycle. And that for me was huge, that lesson. So I still fuck up. I still, here and there. Like, I had a beer last night. Took my kids to the concert, right? And I'm fasting. I fasted all day. I ate and I had a beer, which is not typical of me. And I'm not going to go and have 10 beers today. It's just, it felt right in the moment. We went to a James Bay concert with my kids here in LA. It was a good time, and
Yeah.
had the single beer. So yeah, that's kind of been the story. And again, I feel like at my stage in life, I'm 45, coming up 46. I'm just getting going. I'm not at that stage now where I've got belief back, ambition, excitement about life,
Yeah.
anticipation. I do a lot of work daily, right? That's the thing. Let's not forget, I do a lot of work daily. I work out. There's some non-negotiables I have: visualization work, breath work. I know there's a whole fad over the internet. Sorry, somebody's calling. Let me just decline them.
No
Um,
problem.
this is live recording, a live podcast. Is what goes on, right? So there's all these big fads about meditation, ice baths, whatever. Just find something that works for you, and I find a specific routine that works for me, and a lot of that stuff is helping me daily to get through the challenges I've been going through personally. Right, they've
Yeah.
been some tough ones, and the way I try to do it is, things will come up, and we are wired for the negative as humans. That's the thing to understand. You'll know this. This is a survival instinct. This is survival. So you're fighting the croc brain. Now, that doesn't mean that we're all negative. We just got to remember to rewire it. So it's just to save you and protect you. And then there's times that keeps you small. So the job is to understand how to reframe that. So when bad things come up, I just start to say, well, let me focus on the positives first. And then what can I improve about the negatives? So that's kind of
Absolutely.
my daily process. So there I am, hopefully up to present time.
Present time. And for everybody listening or watching, you can tell why he's so successful in sales. The guy starts talking and he goes on and he'll convince you. There's a saying in Brazil: you will convince a polar bear to buy ice from you. So, so
I'm going to add something to that. I'd
yeah,
like to.
go for
I'm,
it.
I'm very deep into the sales, and obviously we're on a podcast. We could do one on sales if anybody would be interested. Maybe you'll come on one of my podcasts and we'll do that, because
Absolutely.
true selling is about being able to help somebody reflect, realize. Some people don't know they've got a problem, firstly. Some people do, and they need to solve it. So certainly not about talking and talking. It's about asking real skilled questions at the right time, so that people can go through a journey of self-discovery. And this goes back to coaching, because I coach a lot of salespeople, and it's not about me telling them what I know. It's about being able to be a facilitator for them to learn, right? So
Yeah.
that's really the key to selling. And I'll take that as a compliment, but yeah, selling sand to the Arabs and ice to the Eskimos. I get it. It's old school compliments. We're showing our age, Tellers. That's all that's going on there.
Absolutely. Well, we're the same age. You're 45 as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Gio, so I would like to ask you a few questions about what you said throughout your journey. So you moved to Italy, you moved to another country, you're full of excitement, you're young, you're single, you're basically, as a man, it's a lot easier to survive.
Mhm.
But also, what a lot of people don't realize, and they say, "Oh, I want to go to a different country. I want to explore. I want to see what's out there," but they feel like there's something holding them back. Or the other ones, they just want to go and they expect everything to work out first time. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't work out, they keep on bouncing from place to place. So
Yeah.
what can you share with us was your main lesson first, being by yourself in a different country, different language, different culture, different everything, the size of everything. The roads are smaller, the cars are smaller, the portions are smaller. And then the second part of that question is, what difference was when now you're married with a wife and then you guys go as a couple somewhere else? You live in seven different countries with your ex-wife. Can you establish for us a relationship between what is going to another country first by yourself and then
Yeah.
as a couple, as a man, taking
Yeah.
care and providing and all of that?
These are some real deep questions, actually, and it's funny because I've done a lot of reflection on definitely the second part, right, with the relationship. So, firstly, as a single guy, you go to another country. It there's and this is the same as any time you're going to grow. You're going to feel uncomfortable. There was that even when I got to Milan, and I got into my first office was in Piazza Duomo, right there in the
And you had
center.
family also
I had
already there,
family
right?
there, so I had comfort. But and it was right there, just off. It's called Corso Vittorio Emanuele. It's like a street that goes down the side of the cathedral there, and it's like full of shops. And it's like, I mean, the money you earn at work, you spend there on lunch break on fashion. It's crazy. But anyhow, I was there, got in there, and I'd been doing selling. I was confident. Got on the phone, and this guy and the guy that I was working with in the office, the other guys were there. The prospect picked up, and I just froze, and I just got scared, and I hung up, and I thought, fuck. And the guy said, "What happened?" I said, "Oh no, a guy hung up on me." And I went outside, and I used to smoke cigarettes back then, and Marlboro Reds with an espresso. And
Yeah.
I said, "What the fuck am I doing? What have I left? Like, why have I left that job? And I'm here, and I'm having to cold call these people, and I'm like, what have I done?" And I just thought, no, fuck, I've made such a mistake. And then I don't know what it was, this instinctive. I'm, you know what, man up, Gio. This is where you're uncomfortable because it's different, but this is an opportunity to grow. Life happens right now. It's not,
Yeah.
I'm going to be happy when, or especially when you're in a partnership, depending
Putting it
on,
off.
yeah, you're putting it off, you're putting life off, and then if you're in a partnership and you've got someone else's expectation of you, and if you've not communicated that clearly, which was a big mistake through my marriage, someone sits there and they judge you, and they've got this expectation of waiting for you to do something. Where, like I say, it's all about living in the moment. So as you're a single guy, number one, you don't have that part. You don't have to think about someone else's feelings, and I'll get to that part in a moment. Um, but there's this excitement, and then there's this fear, and then the
Yeah.
biggest thing is to just make sure that you don't let the fear stop you moving forward.
Yep.
That's the key, and then it becomes almost addictive, and then you realize that as humans, we're rolling stones. We really are. We're built for it, right? Um, and then like you say, even with me for the first few months, my Italian was really bad because I just
Yeah.
heard it in the home from my grandmother, and it was really simple. Grandmothers just say, "Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Are you hungry?" It's pretty easy to
Just the
understand.
basics.
The
Yeah.
basics, yeah. So there was like 3-4 months where I was sitting there, I'd be out, and with my cousins, even who most of my cousins didn't speak English, right? And they would say, "Oh, Gio, you're really quiet and like shy." I'm like, "Fuck, if only you knew." Like, but it was so I just had to be patient. And
Yeah.
after a while, your confidence gets built. And this is just, again, going back to sport, always relating it to sport. Sometimes you don't start off out the gate. You've got to build confidence. And the confidence is built with repetition over time, right? You become confident through knowing you've put the time and the work in, right? And that's
Yeah.
the same as traveling and moving around and going to new countries and learning new experiences and putting yourself out there. And one of the biggest things I would say, especially with international finance, you see a lot of Brits, they congregate together. What I've always done is I've always gone out there and I've made sure that I made friends with locals outside of the people, because you know what I mean?
Okay.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
otherwise you're really going to miss the underbelly and the real nature of and I did it in Brazil. I met this guy that was selling on the beach, Copacabana Beach, and I you know, cocktails, and him and I struck up and I went out with him probably 10, 15 times while I was there, you know, and
Oh,
saw a
wow.
different Brazil, you know, and it was like, that's just because, again, I've done it so many times. I've moved to so many countries. I know and instinctively what to do in that sense. And then you really get, you know, a good sense of understanding that humans love connection. So get
Yeah.
out there, get and connect with people. So that's the easy part, being single and being a man. When you're with somebody, now I look back on it, I realize kind of what I put my wife through, right? If I
Yeah.
think about it, we lived in 7 countries. It sounds sexy, it sounds exciting. But I took somebody out of their comfort zone, didn't communicate it other than sell the dream, you
Yeah.
know, the opportunity, and that kept getting sold all the way through. But I look back now and I think, Christ, for me, I went to work every day. She was there on her own, not knowing how long we're going to be here for. You know, she kind of getting in maybe fight or flight mode, some stress on herself, lack of communication. So if anybody is moving with family, you know, for whatever reason, make sure you guys have that conversation with each other to say,
Yeah.
hey, is this right for you? Is there going to be, or not, if you do it, it needs to be non-negotiable, where they go out and they build their own network and their own thing. And there was a period, we lived in Dubai. My wife got into beach volleyball there and she started building her own friends. And that was probably the most flourishing time together abroad. The other times was probably more difficult, having kids, being at home, being alone, no support system. So there's some danger in it. I think it did a lot of damage, if you
Yeah.
want to look at it that way. But I'm also grateful for it, because now I know, right? That's something we know through the experience. So I know
Absolutely.
if I look back and reflect upon my relationships, these were certain things that caused a lot of friction. But at the time, I didn't know to have those conversations, you know, and
Yeah.
hopefully that's what content like this does. It educates people, helps them get ahead of it. It's a father's job is as well to not stop your kids going through pain and experiences, but preparing them. Yeah, sure, you know, so that they can be better, you know, better humans for it, better men, better fathers, better partners, better husbands, whatever it may be.
Absolutely.
And again, if you're talking sport, I remember my cousin when he moved from where we're from. He lived in Aylesbury and he moved down to London because this was back in the day when they used to clean the boots to
Yeah.
the first team players. And nowadays he's getting new boots every week. And the first team was like Burkamp, Anelka, you know, Will Todd. It was like the
Wow.
dream
Yeah.
of Arsenal. That was when my cousin was there. But and he afterwards he told me, I never knew this, because he went through a lot of mental health challenges through it all, because if you watched him play, and again, his style of play was way far. The youth team was still run by George Graham and Liam, I forget his name, Irish coach, still the old school long ball. It wasn't like the first team were playing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean, soccer wise. So he's a ball player, and he'd get missed out, right? But anyway, he really struggled with that, being there with no support system. And I was London, and he lived with his family, and he had to travel into Enfield, where they had the training ground there over at Arsenal, and then go to the games every week. All the youth team were there,
Yeah.
and nobody, you know, basically had no. It wasn't that there was access to stuff like this, content, podcasts, things online that can help these young athletes,
Can educate you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it's about. It's about getting, you know, hopefully. Otherwise, why are we doing this conversation? Like, who are we impacting? Right?
Absolutely.
And it's not. It's again. It's not for somebody to not go out and make a mistake, because you've got to go through these challenges yourself. Like, I'm 46, and you know, I'm going through my first heartbreak with my first love in my first ever relationship. I mean, you know, if I had not to look back, I would probably would have hoped I'd got my bloody heart broken early, just to be more prepared. But again, this is my journey.
Yeah.
Comparing yourself with the Joneses is never going to help you.
Yeah.
And that can be the same in sport, right? There's some guys that make it early and they're superstars. And there's people like the Neville brothers that are not really good footballers, but they're bloody, you know, work hard, they've got good ethics, and they've made it a different way. Or some, I don't know if you know the story of Ian Wright, the striker for Arsenal, do you?
I don't know.
Do you know the player, Ian
Yeah.
Wright?
Yeah. Yeah. But his
Great
story, I don't.
played for him anyway. He was playing pub soccer till 21, right?
Oh, wow.
And, you know, that's not your typical path into football, right? To pro football. So he obviously had some self-belief there. Obviously, you know, you've got to believe in it and you've got to still go after it. Despite, I mean, how many people around him said, "What are you doing, Ian? You know, you're never going to make it now." Like, he didn't believe it, you know? So
You went for it.
hope that answers your question anyway.
No, that surely does. And where were the kids born?
So my eldest was born in Marbella in the south of Spain.
Yeah.
Then from there we went to Dubai, then we went back to the UK, and then the youngest was born in England, actually. So
Okay.
Rocco was born in Marbella, Luca was born in England. He's lived in 5 countries. The little ones lived in 3 countries, and then we got back in the US in 2016, back to
Okay.
Pasadena, where my
Did
wife.
they learn any other languages while living abroad?
Sadly, no. That would be the other thing, you know. And they were young at the time. The little one, he's in school here now. He's in the dual language school, so he went from 90% Spanish in his school, and he's been learning. It's a bit more difficult if you don't speak it at home. Some
Yeah.
basic Italian, I mean, but we're changing that. I think that's one of my focuses. One of the things that I wish. I mean, I speak a bit of Spanish, speak Italian. Um, the kids have traveled a lot. Kids came to Brazil with me. You know, they love travel. Just booked flights. They're going to Madrid um, with with the ex and her dad, and then they're meeting. My dad lives in Spain, so they're getting the train down from Madrid to Alicante. Then they're driving up all the way through France back to England to see my family there. So they're well-rounded kids, right? I mean, I'm all for this American lifestyle, but the biggest thing for me as a father, and I'm not telling anyone not to dedicate, go to college and do that. What I'm saying is live life as well, right? You know,
You have
it's
to.
you can't take it, you know, it can't be the be all and end all. If you've got purpose, right? Here's what I would say. A foundational purpose in life, and I'm just started to find mine later in life.
Yeah.
Nothing can hurt you. You can lose your wife, you know that, I know that. You can lose a kid, God forbid, right? You can lose an arm. But if you've got purpose in life and you're driven, no one can take that away from you. You can always bounce back, right? So that's what I would say to, you know, some of these younger athletes that you coach. Find the purpose, and it's not necessarily being a pro, right? You know what I mean? They got to try to dig a couple layers deeper to what that purpose is, right? Could be that they want to become a pro, but maybe they want to show somebody from their town or their background that it is possible. It's normally deeper when you dig. You know what I'm saying?
And the thing is that going back to what you were saying about living in different countries and things like that, one phrase that I use all the time is expectations create frustration. And the reason is when you're going through hardships or even when you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and a lot of times we avoid that because we feel like, we try to imagine a scenario where everything is going to be great, everything is going to be perfect, and so my expectation is for everything to work out. And when it doesn't work out, that's that moment that you walk out of your office and you start listening to that voice that immediately focuses on the negative because it's unfamiliar. Is
Yeah.
wow, I wasn't expecting this. So instead of having that kind of expectation for perfection, is just go in with an open mind, go
Yeah,
in
and
with
then
an open.
process driven, right? If you stick with the process versus the results, you know that the results will take care of themselves, and they will be indifferent. But over time, you'd like them to be, you know what I mean? But it's about staying with your process, isn't it?
And Gio, and so as you're moving, take us through your career here a little bit more. So as you're moving to all different countries and doing other things, how is it for you? Basically, why are you moving so much? Is it a job decision? Is it a personal decision? Is it a company? Are you chasing more money? Are you chasing more fulfillment, a new challenge? What's the reason behind doing all of that?
Couple things, and I'm, you know, I'll own up and say probably a lot of the times it's a mistake. What I've learned, I've moved, and again, this was friction in my relationship with my ex, right? For me, I've been in the same business forever. I've been raising capital, sales, right? Moving money and selling investments, alternative investments. So a lot of the times in the early years was moving project to project. So maybe a developer would be in Bulgaria or here or there, and we would move around, set up a sales floor, and then sell to investors, off-plan stuff and whatever. So that was a big part of it.
Yeah.
Then when I got to the US, um, a lot of it was I got sold on chasing the dream. Salespeople are easy to be sold. Like, I come here, there's a better opportunity. And the lesson that I've learned is there's always a better opportunity. And my mistake, and the thing that I've realized is, number one, you've got to have purpose and passion. If you don't, and I never had that. So that was one part of it. I was doing something that internally I didn't feel good about. So that made me more vulnerable to change. And that was obviously, in terms of some emotional support to the wife, for me, I was okay with change. I'm almost addicted to it. But
Yeah.
also looking back, you've got to stick and focus at one thing. If I'd have stayed in any one of those past opportunities, I'd have been far better off financially, and I made some real decent money in some of these things, you know. But that's my lesson to learn, right? That was my
Yeah.
lesson to learn. I didn't have someone on my shoulder telling me. I had somebody judging me, why you're changing all the time. That's a whole nother conversation. But I didn't have somebody saying, hey, son, or it doesn't have to be a father. Like, listen, this is what you got to think about. And
Yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
go through the grind. You got to go through that period of boredom, that repetition. So a lot of the times I was sold on a new opportunity, right? I was guaranteed money for X amount of time, better opportunity, bigger sales team, and then you get there and it doesn't work out. You've been me so whatever. So I viewed it as, okay. A lot of the times, the way I would have to resell myself, resell my wife on all these things, and that's probably a big part of what drove her crazy. But I am who I am, right? And I'm also somebody that's never stopped trying, and I'm also willing to look back and learn. Was that a mistake? Yeah, probably a lot of the times it was a mistake.
Yeah.
However, that's one way to look at it. The other way is this: I'm on my journey exactly the way I'm
Absolutely.
supposed to be, my friend. Life happens, which is one of your sayings you said to me that's helped me immensely. Life happens for you, not to you, right? That's got me through some tough times in the last few months, to just trust the process. And now where I'm at, I've got back to a place where I feel I've got purpose back, and I'm doing something I've got passion about. And part of it is like, is this a repeat of what I've been doing? Is it? So I've had to kind of say, well, no, this is different because of X, Y, and Z. There's no emotional decision made, no rash decision made, where a lot of the times it was very emotional, very rash. Now it's thought out. My moves are thought out more. That I take time and I reflect.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big thing is what you have to stick at something. Whatever you choose to do, if you want success in it, I think you got to stay the course, right? So I can view what I've been doing for a long time as, yes, I've been doing the profession of sales forever, never changed that. But I have changed opportunities. So, and again, that could be the same at a soccer club, right? People could be quick to jump out of a contract. Others could be, or a college or whatever. It doesn't matter. Even your program, right? People come into your program. If they don't stick it out and do the work, you can give them all the guarantees in the world, right? For your offer, they got to do the work. So that's what I realized. I got to do the work. It's on me. No one's coming to save me, right? No one's coming to help me. It's on me to be honest with myself, to
Yeah.
have self
Yeah.
integrity, self respect, self discipline. And that's what I'm building every day. Am I perfect? Far from it. But I'm working at it every day. That's all I can say.
That's the goal. So we'll dive a little bit deeper in quite a few things that you said there that to me are very, very interesting. We like to have a script, but I also love the natural flow of conversation. So, like I told you before, we did have a script, but uh, I don't really I don't really feel like a lot of times it's necessary to really help each other out, to help the audience, to help. My goal here is, even if there's one person that hears something that we're saying that they go like, wow, that's exactly what I needed. So going back to something that you said about life happens for you and not to you. So when you said a few times, oh, it was my mistake or it was a failure, I I view that as a learning opportunity because you make the decisions that you make in life with the level of consciousness that you have at that moment. But even a week or a month later, when you go back, your consciousness isn't the same. You're more
Mm.
aware now. You already saw the path that unfolded right in front of you. So even a day after, maybe sometimes you're like, wow, why did I do that? Well, so you have to believe that whatever you're doing, you're learning. If you view everything as, oh my gosh, this is so bad, it's such a mistake. Well, if you thought that was a mistake, you wouldn't have made that decision. So you made the decision thinking, well, this is the path I'm going. Even when you are unsure. So it happens across the board. It doesn't only happen in sports, it happens in sales, it happens in any kind of business, in relationships. And are we perfect? No, and we don't expect to be perfect. And something that you said in the very early part of the conversation is we're here to learn, to grow. And are we going to make mistakes? Yes, of course we are. But the difference is don't let that one mistake drag you to a completely different path that you were on. You can always adjust the course. So let's say you're driving, you're going somewhere, and maybe the road is a little bit bumpy, or you go to the right a little bit. But how soon can you come back to center and stay on the path? And that, to me, the moment that you said that, is something that I always think about is, oh, okay, I drank a beer. I'm going to drink 10 today. I broke the fast. I'm going to eat whatever anyway. So a lot of times what happens, and this is my personal opinion, is what I call it's a change of intention. So your intention is to fast, to whatever it may be, right? To eat properly or to not have a drink or to move to a different country. Your intention is the best possible intention that you have. But the moment things get a little bit tough, you change the intention. Nobody's going to find out. It's only one. It's only one time. Only gonna have one drink, or just today. I'm not gonna do it. That's the moment that you need to do the most. That's the most important moment because that's the turning point. Once the intention changes, you are on a different path than you were before. So, in your own journey, in your own uh, personal growth and development, and whatever you've gone through throughout, like this 25 plus years of being in the same business and learning, what relationship can you establish between business, life, sports? What is the one thing that you can say for sure? No matter what, this is going to happen.
Yeah, it's that intentional decision to. It's always two choices. You compound the error or you compound the positive, right? That's what I've realized. And I would always compound the error
Mm-hmm.
because I would be so hard on myself for failure because we're always expecting perfection.
Yep.
Like you think, and I think it's missold in the media. It's certainly missold on social media. None of that shit's true. 99% of it, a post, this, that, the other. There's always the reality of things
Yep.
behind that. And I spent a lot of times, as I say, whenever that one mistake happened, I would spiral, and I choose the path of compounding the error. This
Yep.
works in finance, compounding the interest, right? So now I just realised that if there's a stoic exercise that I use a lot, and I read a lot of stoicism and philosophy, and that's helped me. And one of the exercises is when we're thinking about what we're doing right now in the moment. I don't know, pick anything, that a problem you may have, argument you had with your wife, your boss, whatever, and or whatever you're going through. And it could be bad. Like if we look at it from today, you know, maybe you broke your leg or you lost your leg and you can't play soccer. But if you zoom out and you go into space, you go into the universe, and you realize all these galaxies and planets out there, and you look back on, you know, you're that little speck of you. How bloody bad is the problem? Like honestly, and I'm not trying to downplay somebody's, you know, but when you can view it, take some time just to view it like that, you can realize that, you know, it's not that bad. You're gonna be okay. Okay, so if you can remember that when you've failed that fast or you didn't turn up for training or whatever it is, and just be easy on yourself, but remember to make sure that you're going in the right direction. A little bit every day in the right direction, like you say, 1% better a day. Like that is the gold right there. And for me, I was very much for most of my, you know, life, I've been the opposite. I've been all or nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hardcore. I mean, you know, I'm fully committed, and that stuff just doesn't last. Motivation dies. It's about doing the small things daily in the right direction. So that's really been the biggest lesson for me to embrace. Because my question to myself was, am I just like with all the changes that I keep doing or have kept doing?
Yeah.
Is it coming from a place of I'm quitting, giving up too early? Or am I addicted to the excitement of change? That was one thing I thought about a lot because I fucking loved it. I love that new
Yeah.
excitement, something new. You know what I mean? The adventure. Um, and because when, especially recently, where I've made some shifts in changes because I'm now in a different stage of my life. I'm on my own. Got my kids. I've got a different vision again. I don't have to answer to anybody in many ways,
Yeah.
and my mind is going back to that place of excitement and belief and the dreams, the ambitions. And then there's a little part of me that says, am I repeating patterns? You know what I mean saying? So, and that's the one thing I go back to. No, I'm not. What the pattern was it was
You're
all or
not
nothing.
the same person as you
I'm
were.
not the same person. I've grown. I understand what went on. I've forgiven myself. And then I realized that as long as I don't compound the error and go down that path, because you can choose to sit in something that doesn't serve you. And it's okay to be there for a moment. You will be there for periods, right? But it's reframe. It's okay. How does this serve me? How do I reframe it and then get myself back? As long as you're moving, like think about it like a stock chart, right? It's never straight up, is it? Right? It goes up and up. As long as the overall trend is up or forward, wherever it is you're trying to get to, you're winning. But we're so attached to the now, to the instant gratification, and then social media. I know this is going to be posted on social media. It's kind of tongue in cheek, but obviously somebody's got to sit through this if they want to get, like you say, maybe one nugget they get from this. Maybe 90% of it they think, oh, these guys are full of shit. But as long as they get that one thing that for them they can connect with, and for them maybe it shifts something in their mind, then we're doing something better for the world, right? But yeah, but that's really it. It's not instant gratification, and it's staying attached to that direction, moving forward towards where you want to be, somehow staying in the present in all of that, if that makes any sense.
No, it's I love what you said about stoicism and philosophy and getting yourself out of that's what I call your ego. Your ego thinks that you are the center of the universe and you are not. There's a lot of world out there, and we'll dive into that in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you, you said the compound interest, that's something that I use for myself and also for the people that I work with. Is what I call the compound interest of self-development.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the whole the main concept is, can you do something daily to improve? Can you take one step? And the reason why I started the 1% club is I was at the darkest moment in my life. I didn't see light at the end of the tunnel. I really could not see more than a day. So my battle started to be, can you be better than you were yesterday and just go through today? Tomorrow, it will be another battle. I was getting divorced. I had no money. I lost the business. I didn't even have a place to live. I had to go shower at someone else's house because I didn't have heated water at the time. It was basically a disaster. So I was always like, you know what? Tomorrow, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but today I will make sure that I will take one tiny step. And with that, what happened in my own personal journey is two things. You're not in the same place as you were the day before. And the second thing is you're one step closer to where you're supposed to be. You're one step closer to finding out what your purpose is. So a lot of times we get stuck and we go, oh my gosh, this is so bad. And we start going backwards. So don't. Move forward. It is what it is. What happened, happened. And can you take a step? Can you take one step forward? So that is the main thing that I love doing, one for myself, and then also teaching others how to do it. So, in your own journey now, you said you have a few non negotiables, you meditate, you work out. What have you found in your own journey that is something that you have to stay grounded? You do it, you do no matter what. Is there a morning routine? Is there something that you do on a daily basis at the same time? Take us through how one can develop that, what you said, that it's the non-negotiable.
Yeah, well, I look, number one, I would say it takes time. Like, and I am not great at it. When I do my morning routine, I am not, that's what I'm really building now for that to be fully ingrained. It's not. I'm doing it. It's not always at the same time. I'm a little flexible. I'm quite spontaneous. Sometimes I'll have my kid. I'll just, my kids live in Pasadena. I'm in downtown LA, and I'll have him come stay on a Tuesday. I have him at the weekends, but we're super cool as a family, and I'll bring him back. So that changes stuff. So, but where before I would get frustrated with it. So, like, as you know, all good sports people can adapt. There's good things in routine. I'm not sure I'm that type of creature that is really like that way, but I'm working on building that. But one of the things is definitely a walk now. I always get out in the morning. I go for a walk. Right, that's a non-negotiable. That I have to walk outside. I've got a treadmill over there, and I first started. I've got my weighted pack, and I was doing the walks in the house. I've got like a
Yeah.
studio apartment, and then I thought, no, I need to get outside in the fresh air. Life is happening out there, right? I don't know if you live in downtown; it's quite colorful on the streets. There's always something going on. Um, but yeah, I'm always working on the morning routine, because what I know is when I do it, and I tick off the things that I've committed to myself, I feel better about myself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, the warning, if you will, is if you don't do it, don't feel too hard on yourself. As long as you've taken that one step forward, because our stories are very similar. And there was days where I couldn't see the light through the trees, and I wasn't prepared for it,
Yeah.
and knocked me on my ass. But I look back now, and I'm talking March, when I moved out of the family home. Right, what are we in now? And it wasn't that long ago.
May.
And
We're in May now. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I look back, and I look back and think, my God, how much have I grown in that short space of time, right? But there was some dark days, and there's still little moments. But now I've become better at getting out of them quicker, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because you
Let
reframe it
go.
quicker.
Let go.
Self-awareness, you let go quicker because you can't change it. It's okay, let the feelings in, let the emotions come in. And this, again, if you look at it on the micro level, I'm up front, I've got a one-on-one with a keeper, I miss, boom, I'm upset, someone shouted, you missed that one, and you can take that, or you've got to learn to reframe, get that out of your mind quickly, right?
Come back to center right away.
I'll tell you how many goals I've missed from 2 yards off the goal line. I wouldn't even know how I missed them, but I scored plenty of goals, you know what I mean? Because I learned to forget those. And these are just little mini lessons that, it's the same in your daily routine. So I'm not sure if that kind of specifically answers the question, but the non-negotiable right now, the one single thing is that I'm doing every single day is I'm fasting every day. And I've got a routine, like, as I say, and I've got a plan built to allow some room for that. So if for whatever reason I decide to eat now, there's always one day that I do a refeed. So I could just adapt and
How many
change.
hours do you fast usually?
So I'm in a 6-week challenge right now. So I'm doing some crazy stuff in there. But the typical is I do a 48-hour fast from a Sunday night till Tuesday. And then I do one meal a day for the rest of the week. And then on a Saturday, I'll have a cheat day, do whatever. And that can be 4 meals, but typically it's only one anyway.
Yeah.
But it might be that I want to go out for breakfast with somebody, and I don't really eat breakfast anyway. But like I went and did a workout with a buddy I hadn't seen in a while. He called me, and he didn't know about my situation, and he actually called me because he was a little bit down, right? And
Yeah.
work, and it was really good for men to be able to connect. And we did a workout, we smashed some weights around. This guy's in great shape, and he used to train me as a CrossFit coach of mine. And you know, two big dudes just hugged it out, had breakfast together, and it was needed. And you know, I didn't get all militant about the fact that I broke my fast. You know what I mean? So self-forgiveness is the other part. Is so right now it's that daily walk and self-forgiveness. I do it every day, and I've got four or five things that I've probably done for a week consistently, which is I'm trying to do every day, and it's walk, work out. Okay, a visualization, breathing session, read, gratitude. But typically I'll start with gratitude, right? And then journal. And a journal, when I say journal, I'll just do a little just dump some thoughts on my mind. You know, yesterday I was pissed off. I was a little jealous about some things
Yeah.
with ex. Like just things popped in my mind and I felt jealousy. I'm like, what does that serve me? I sat in it for a little bit and then I said, well, that's time to let go, right? So it's not that, and this goes back to your point earlier, which was so key, and hopefully I want to reiterate so people understand it, is the expectation you talked about, right? Shit is going to happen. Like if you sit there and think it's not going to happen, when it doesn't, you're done for. And I'll give you a really good example. I played golf and I got to a pretty decent level of golf. I got down, I was shooting under par regular.
Oh,
And
wow.
in England, you've got to be 5 or below to play in the scratch team. That means you play all these other clubs and you play for scratch and you play like, you know, the Ryder Cup style play, right? I was in the team when I was off of 13. The coach, the captain brought me in because I'd make a lot of birdies, a lot of bogeys. But what I was good at was this. Imagine this. Imagine I stuff it by the pin, right? And I'm 4 foot. And this guy's in the bunker or in the bushes next to me. And I'm thinking, this guy's fucking dead, right? And he holds
Yeah.
it out. You're done for. You can't put that putt in. You can't even hold the putter. I would always expect the unexpected, right? And again, it goes through self-education. I learned a lot of that stuff from Bob Rotella, reading one of his books. And this guy is amazing. A lot of golfers use him. And that helped me go to the next level in that. But you can use this stuff in life, right? If you expect it when it happens, it goes back to that, having that purpose, you know, and then you're prepared. You've got a foundation. You can't build a house on sand. You get what I mean? So
It's something I learned not too long ago. I was reading. I love reading as well, and I learned from a sports psychologist that he was talking about low expectations and high standards. That's
love
what you
that.
need. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Don't expect too much. So the
Yeah.
expectation is low, but the standard is what I control. So what
Yeah.
I control is going to be high. But the
Exactly.
expectation, it is what it is. Whatever comes, I'm prepared for it. And I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It works so well. Like it's funny because instinctively in sales, when I train new sales guys, they get so emotionally attached to a deal, like $1 million deal here, this, that, the other. I don't care if someone's got $1 million, 10 million, they're investing 50,000. I treat them the same and I don't get attached to the deal. And I learned that really, really quickly in my sales career. Obviously, at the start, it did. But if you're talking to somebody, a prospect, especially somebody with money, you're talking about an investment deal or whatever, and you're attached to that commission or whatever, that comes across, man. I'm so disattached to these conversations. And again, that's a really powerful lesson to learn because I don't care about the commission or I've let go of the result and I'm just stuck on my process. And my process is in sales is to find out, uncover, is there need? What's the problem with this person? What's their current situation? Where do they want to get to? What's holding them back from getting there? And
Yeah.
what's the cost of inaction? What's the cost if they don't get there? And then I help them discover that. But my point is I'm totally disattached to it. They do, they don't. Okay, move on, you know? You take a penalty, you miss, you don't, you move on. Not many people can do it, man. Not, like it's so hard. Same with golf, If you sat there on the putting green, and I used to do this as a warm up, I would go and watch these guys hitting like 20-foot putts, missing all these putts, warming up 3 rounds. And again, I would go a 2 foot from the cut, and I'd hit 50 in straight, never miss one. I'd get so close I couldn't miss them. And then I get on the course, I got a 4-footer, it's in. Because I just remember it going in, right? I don't remember the misses. But when you're trying to do it from 20 foot, the percentages are so low, all you're going to remember are the misses. So you can use all these little techniques in so many different areas of life and sport and whatever. I'd suggest anybody read that book. It's a golf book related. Bob Rotel, I think it's Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. And that goes back to the whole point, right? That title in itself. It's
Right
not
there,
about.
right there. It's not about perfection. That
No.
and it's something also that you said about the whole social media and people just posting highlight reels and all of that. This is one of my objectives here is to show people what real life is. Real life is going through adversities, making mistakes, setbacks, failures, and still keep on going.
Yeah.
Still stay on the path. Don't go the other way. Don't do something because it's easy. What might be easy, it's going to be most likely something that you're going to regret later on. Growth is on the other side of pain. So there's an analogy that I recently learned as well. It's called the buffalo mentality. I don't know if you're familiar with the buffalo and the cow. So Colorado is one of the very few places in the world that has mountains, they have buffaloes, and they have cows. And the storms usually come from the mountains and they come into where the buffaloes and the cows live. And because animals can sense storms in the air, the two animals have a very, very different point of view. The buffaloes see the storm, the cows see the storm the same exact way. They look at it from a very, very different point of view. The cows, they see the storm, the same storm that the buffalo are seeing is the cows are seeing. But the cows view that, oh my gosh, I gotta run away. Cows are not very fast. So the moment that they sense the storm, they start going away. And because cows are not very fast, they will go away, away, away. And eventually the storm comes, catches them, and they're still going away from the storm. So the storm lasts days sometimes because they're walking with the storm.
It follows them, yeah.
And the buffalo, on the other hand, the buffalo sees the storm and they go, huh, I know what's on the other side. On the other side of the storm, there's sunshine. So what they do is they go towards. They immediately start facing the storm and they go towards and they get through basically right away. So the buffalo mentality is don't avoid the storm. The storm is right there. Both of them can see it. But your perspective is so different that when you see the storm coming, all right, it is a storm. It's not going to feel comfortable. It's not going to be easy to handle, but I can get through it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
again, going back to your Stoic philosophy and, back in the day, what you can and what you can't control and who you are, like a little tiny point in the universe, things change. The
Mm.
only constant is change. So after the storm, guess what's going to happen? There will be sunshine. After
Yep.
the
And another
hurricane,
storm. And another storm, right? That's the beauty
but
of it.
that's the mentality that I want people to start to understand is, guys, stop
Yeah.
avoiding being uncomfortable. You are going to. If it's not relationship, if it's not business, if it's not in sports, whatever you are going through, there's going to be good times. Enjoy
Yeah.
those, but just know the hardships will come. Don't
Yeah.
avoid. learn how to deal with yourself, with your mind, with your emotions, because that they will come is just a matter of fact. You just said it.
There's one thing I want to say that I've started to get good at, I believe, and then I think this is really powerful, is embracing the storm. If you want to use the, based on your story. What a beautiful story, by the way. And I've never heard it. And there's another thing. Every day's a school day. Look at this. I'm learning something. It makes us so much sense, right? But I've kind of caught myself. I'll say to myself, just what, fucking, I had a couple of days, 3, 4 things would happen, and I'm like, you know what, just bring it on, just bring it on, give me the worst. Like there's some beauty in the pain and the suffering, and when you view it that way, it helps you kind of embrace it, go through it, and you know that like you say, there's sunshine through the storm.
Yeah,
Because you cannot avoid it. If you go avoiding it, you're just going to get it. You're going to get more of it, and then you're not going to, like you say, you're going to. It's such a great analogy. You're running with it. It's just following you. This dark cloud. You can't get away from it. And that's the people that sit in misery. And the sad part about that, Talis, people do that their whole life. They spend their whole life running with the fucking storm.
they do. They do.
It's sad. Sad. It's sad. Well, and hopefully, them listening to your story, even something like that can shift someone's perspective and change somebody's life. Obviously, they've got to take the action. They've got to do the things that connect with them, but it's got to connect with them. And then when it connects and something clicks inside of you, that's when you can take the action. So hopefully that's. I mean,
And
that's a
what you were saying earlier too about our brain, the reptilian brain that focuses on the negativity is some people are so negative that they don't even know they're being so negative. They just think that's who they are, that's how it is, that's how life is always going to be. They don't know that they have a choice. And when you and I are very similar, we're on the path of learning, growing, getting better, and developing and embracing the storm. And, it does get to a point that you're like, oh, fucking hell, man. Another one? All right, here we go. Yeah,
yeah.
no problem. I'll give you my own personal example. I moved to Florida 3 years ago, and I've moved in Florida alone already 6 times, 6 different times. The last time I was moving, I asked 2 kids to help me. The kids bailed in the last minute. So I'm like, all right, you're gonna have to move by yourself. I lived in the second floor. First time I go down with the couch on the elevator breaks. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to take the stairs. So what's next? You don't
Yeah.
just like, oh my gosh, this is so bad, and I gotta go find who's responsible for the elevator. It's like, it is what it is. Deal
Yeah.
with it. I've come to say is I've become grass. Is you just bend, but you don't break. No,
Yeah.
because it's come so many times. It's hit me from so many directions that I'm at the point that, all right, that's great. So what you were saying is that, yeah, kind of like you start enjoying the pain because you know what comes after is I'm gonna be so much better off because I'm going. It's what I was telling you earlier. Life happens for you and not to you. So if something similar happens again, no
Yeah.
worries.
You can be. I know now. I can be a better friend to somebody. I can be a better father. I can be a better partner, even a better ex. The relationship with my wife. I know that's always going to be. We're always going to be part of each other's lives. We've got 2 kids
Have
together, so
that
I don't
bond.
want that toxic. I want to learn to communicate better with each other, and we're doing that. We're living that, and that's important. Romance aside, you if you don't grow, you die. That's what I mean. And that analogy with the grass is beautiful. You've got to bend with life. And again, to go back to sportsman, who are the best performers out there? The ones that are like grass, brother. They fucking change in the moment. Mayweathers of the world, they adjust in the moment. When things aren't going their way, they just figure a way to adjust.
No worries. I've been there, done that before. It's not gonna break me.
Exactly. Yeah. Beautiful.
So, Gio, tell me what have you started your podcast? I know you've talked about it, helping other
Yeah.
people. Can you take us through what your next step is what you're working on. Obviously, you're working
Yeah.
on yourself daily, but you want to inspire, you want to help more people. So what are you up to? What are you
So,
doing?
so I, kind of had a few different ways that I was thinking about what way I want to start something.
Yeah,
And the first thing I thought, okay, I've got to put myself first. I've got to
yeah,
rebuild myself. I've got
yeah,
to become better at all these things that we've been talking about: self-awareness, growth, discipline. So that's my priority is my health and my daily discipline, because that makes me show up better as a father, a friend, a community member.
yeah.
Uh, and then the long-term goal. And then one of my other friends, I was going to make, because I wanted to build a community that helps, other men. And I say men now because, I don't want to alienate women, but um, at this point, it's other men that I want to help inspire change in, right? Um,
You want to basically coach your old self.
yeah, exactly. It's coach my old self.
Exactly.
Like your coach, because you're always old. Yes, there was Gio of yesterday, right? It's different,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, but one of my friends reminded me, and sales was never a part of it, right? And I always felt a little bit like the imposter syndrome, like because I've done all these sales training, and I think I listen to all these guys, and they're just like it's like a musician. No one's invented a these new chords. They're just playing their influence of music they've grown up with. It's their interpretation of it, right? And it's quite similar in sales. And anyway, my friend reminded me, hey, listen, forget this relationship side of it, or that's always going to be part of it. But you need to focus on your expertise, which is selling. I've been in selling for 25 years, and the mindset side of it. So, and he's a kind of guy that we raise private equity together, and we're doing some stuff together. A lot's going on. So he's already got a little community going. I'm doing some podcasts with him. I've already done like 4 podcasts with him around sales. So what I've decided not to do is, again, not overthink the thing. I've got I used to have 15 goals a year. Again, this is one of my problems. I'm like, fucking 15 goals. I don't
Too
know where to start.
many.
Right? I've got 2 very clear goals on my board now. That's it. With that part of it, all we've decided to do is take action. So we're doing like weekly podcasts, but in terms of the business side of it, the offer side of it, it's going to come down the road, but it's going to be based around sales coaching one-on-one, sales coaching with the mindset. Think Andy Elliott, but obviously, me being me and authentic, that type of offer, because I just think that there's so many men out there that don't have people to talk to, people to lean on. Even what I've gone through, there's been a couple of people that have been there for me. And without those people, I don't know where I'd be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that the way the world's set up is as men, we're disconnected. I don't know whether to get too deep, and I'm not well, put tin hat on, but I think the world is almost designed for us men not to sit there and have real conversations with vulnerability and genuine fascination for someone else's story, because we're all too quick to tell our own stories and make it all about ourselves. And that's ego, right?
Yeah.
Ego's fed with ego wants anger, it's fed with the bad emotions, and that goes back to that point. So just learning that part. But in terms of what I'm doing, I'm in the moment, living my life today, and I'll inspire people hopefully through something like this, and I'm gonna let it. My point is, there's no expectation with it right now. That doesn't
Love
mean
it.
I have a plan, but I'm just letting. All I know is that will show up because I know that's my purpose, to help inspire other men. It will show up by me doing my personal work. So if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it to me is always a matter of working on yourself,
Yeah.
improving yourself so you can be a better human being, a better father, a better whatever, a better salesman, whatever the case may be. You have to work on yourself. And that's, to me, it's not being selfish. It's being self-aware. And to go back to the point that you said, that men have to, we all, it is the same thing. It happened in my relationship. I was terrible at communicating. I was very bad at expressing how I was feeling. So I just always thought that, yeah, things will get better eventually, and they don't.
Not
They
if you
don't.
not if you do the work. You can't push it under the rug, brother.
You can't. You can only suppress for a period of time, but soon enough, shit's gonna hit the fan. So whoever is listening to us, whoever hopefully made it this far in our conversation and they're still here, and if you are a man, or even if you are a woman, if you guys are married, if you are in any kind of relationship, it's communication is key. Being vulnerable and just like putting your ego to the side and understanding what the needs are of the other person as well, because you always, obviously, you're going to only see from your point of view. You don't think about what are they going through, what kind of help do they need. So it's inspiring to me to hear that you want to help basically other men that are going through the same thing, because guys, the reality is whoever is in a relationship, you have issues. You
Yeah.
have issues. First, you have issues with yourself, and then you have issues with your partner as well. Maybe they do something, maybe they leave the toilet seat up, maybe they leave their toothbrush, or it's their dirty laundry, or whatever the case may be. There are going to be things that piss you off. But
Yeah.
if you don't communicate, if you're not open about it, if you're not vulnerable, you're not growing, you're not learning, you're not evolving. And sooner or later, you're going to end up staying together for the kids. And
Yeah, one thing I'd add to that as well is when you're communicating, you've got to communicate your boundaries, and
yep,
you've got to boundaries. And I had my boundary, and I moved out. My boundary was crossed in that sense, and again, there's no blame game. We're both to blame, but I take responsibility. It's her duty to take her responsibility. But as you get good at communicating, I feel again now moving into whatever a new relationship looks like for me, I'm a better guy for it because I now know
yep.
when you communicate and you are thinking about their perspective. Because if you're not, you're still in that self-absorbed space of your ego. Ego is
Egocentric, meaning you're
yeah,
just thinking about yourself.
yeah, you have to think of the other person and also know what you want, what you'll expect, and what you'll accept, your non-negotiables. And when they're crossed, it's not for the other person, it's for you to take the action. So you can't stop somebody crossing your boundary. You get what I mean?
Yep.
That you can't stop them doing it. And you can't, like, it goes back to that point, you cannot control anything that anyone does to you in life or the day will throw at you. All you can choose is how you react to it, how you view it. And and again, I'm not just going to say this is part of a man, but I think women may be a little bit better at this. But as men, found the journey over life is I'm really in a space now where before I would just act emotionally, very like an animal almost. Now I've got so much better at something will happen. I will reflect, okay, and then I will think about it, and then I'll decide what I want to do, right? So I won't just react emotionally to it. So and that gets better and better every day, and that makes me feel far more in control. I'll give you an example. I was downtown I live. I went out on Sunday for my walk, which I said the kids were still asleep. I went to get coffee, and I don't know, there was this guy there punching this woman in the face like multiple times in the middle
Oh,
of the street.
wow. Okay.
Must have been about 50 people around looking at her, right? And looking at this. And I'm like, this is inhumane. And I thought to myself, I can walk on, you know, and again, I'm streetwise enough to assess the situation. He didn't look like if he had the money for a gun, he probably would have been in a crack pipe. But that was
Yeah.
the but so I sussed out and I thought, okay, I won't get close enough to get stabbed, but I've got to do something, right? So and I didn't kind of run in there aggressively. Initially I thought that was my initial thing. I'm going to go in there and just pull this guy off and maybe I'll chin him. And I thought, no, that's not going to. That would be the old Gio. Right? But I did cross the road, and I made a point. And I said, and I went in non-threatening, and I decided. And this was all went on pretty quickly. But afterwards I realised, oh, I see how I grow, and I chucked a little cheeky little thing. I used to box a little bit, and the guy was like, and she was giving as good as she can get, right? And anyway, I calmed it down, sent them the boat, and this guy was like 6'4", big, and he was getting aggressive with me, just saying he's just come out of prison. And I said, and I kind of calmed it all away, and a little bit of me probably shouldn't have done this. Now I reflect. I said, listen, brother, I've just seen the way you throw your right hand. and he was squared up, and I could tell he wasn't a fighter just by his footwork. I said, I'm probably not your guy. You know what I mean? You're probably going to end up on your ass. Like, you get on your bus. Again, that was just me being a bit cheeky. Looking back, I didn't need to antagonize there, but for the most part, again, like I say, it wasn't perfect, but it was a massive improvement to the person that would have just jumped in there and probably punched the guy.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
who is he to me? But he's hitting a woman in the street. You know what I mean? And all these
Wow.
people around are watching it. And I think to
Nobody
myself,
taking action but you.
where has humanity gone? Like, again, that's probably a podcast for another day, but it felt the right thing to do. And also, like I say, I used it as a learning lesson for myself to see what growth have I had as a human being over the times of what I've been going through. Some parts of the things that I've been through, the pain, have softened me in the right way.
Yeah.
Others have hardened me in the right way, like discipline and things like that. But certainly some parts have given me far more, what the word I'm looking for, far more, yeah, I would say softness, like forgiveness, softness, like love. I've always been a loving type of guy.
Understanding,
Yeah, understanding.
self-compassion. Yeah.
Yeah, compassion. There you go. Give me way more compassion. Way more compassion.
Yeah, because we can be our own worst enemies. And it's funny that you say that you had breakfast with your buddy and two guys that needed each other and probably shared a whole lot. And I say this all the time is the advice that we give other people, we don't give ourselves. So we don't treat ourselves like a friend. We are very, very harsh. And that can go to, again, sports, business, relationships. Oh my God. You think to yourself, oh, I'm such a piece of shit. Why did I do that? I would never talk to you like that. I wouldn't say, hey, yeah, you are really, oh, you're a piece of shit. Look at
Well,
what
I
you're
was
doing.
thinking about your ripped jeans and your hair, no hair gel, but forgive me. That was
You
20.
know, you're a little bit softer than that. But
I've got more passion, yeah.
we give other people something that we don't give ourselves.
Yeah.
So that to me, that's part of growing. It's part of becoming more self-aware that I have an option. Am I going to be really negative with myself and go down a spiral that's going to be really hard to get out of? Or it is what it is. Let go. And one analogy that I use is if your phone isn't really working and you have like 10 different apps open, close the app, open again. When you
Yeah.
call someone and you have a technical problem, what do they always tell you? Have you started resetting? Have you tried
PTSD right now. My ex always says that to me.
Have you
Read
tried
it always
unplugging
works.
and plugging back? So you gotta let things go. You have to move on. Move on. I'm
Well,
sorry, I stopped
that's
you
a
there.
good point. Well, I think because I don't want to miss this the self compassion because that's massive, right? We need self compassion, and I think where a lot of people get confused. Again, this is an assumption. This is where I've got confused. So maybe you can speak to this because you're dealing with a lot of people within that space. Is because of these high standards you spoke about, we get fucking mixed up between having high standards and lack of compassion. You know what I mean? Or we feel if we have high standards, we can't be compassionate. You can absolutely coexist in that space, right?
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
that that I think is a big issue. You know, I've got to
Because
be
it,
hard on myself. I've got to drive. That's different than being compassionate to
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, it goes back to what I said a little bit earlier. The expectation is low, but the standard is high. So don't hold yourself to be perfect. You're not going to. It's okay. We all make mistakes, but the difference is, are you learning from them, or do you keep on making the same mistakes? And I love what you said. Now, even if you go into a new relationship, you're going to be a better guy in that relationship because you understand yourself better. You're going to understand her needs a little bit better. So that's something that to me is the purpose of life. We're here to
Yeah.
evolve. We're here to grow.
So there goes to my point. I can look at my breakup and I can be negative and toxic about it. I can be grateful for it, and that's tough. That's to say that in pain is, but it's authentic. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you're not going to feel the pain and the miss. You've been with somebody for 18 years. Of course you are. You know, you there's some grief there, right? You're grieving, But absolutely, I'm grateful for the whole situation.
It makes you
Um,
a better person.
yeah, because it really does. It helps you grow, and it helps you. And again, one more thing about being, again, not selfish, but putting yourself first. You can show up better because I think about it. I want to be the best. For me to be a better dad, I need to be a better me. You
Mm-hmm.
get what I mean? And that's not me saying you got kids, you know. If somebody asked me, I was talking about something, actually, one of my aunties, and she said, you got to put these kids first. And I said, listen, and again, I'll put myself first. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I know that I need to do that. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm putting myself first so I can be the best version of me for my kids. And she goes, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, but I just, I needed to kind of correct, not that it mattered to her, but you know what I mean? It was more for myself to say that out loud and feel
In
okay
case
about it.
of an emergency, who do you put the mask on first?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is where fasting helps, right? And this is not to get too deep. Like I've done a 12-day fast before. Imagine how crazy things have got. And when, everybody was buying up all the toilet paper and COVID. Part of this fasting journey I've been on has been about being like integrity and being responsible father. I figure if I can go 12 days without food and I train twice a day in those 12 days, hard training, not CrossFit and stuff, heavyweight training, boxing, felt amazing. And then I thought, how strong that like how much more have I got now to offer as a father and a husband or whatever, a partner, a friend, that I can let somebody else eat before me for 12 days and I can operate and I can protect and provide. You know what I mean? So again, we could probably do a whole podcast on fasting and the benefits of it,
It's
but
it's
that's a
something
huge benefit that is overlooked in fasting.
I love as well. And when I fast, I've done a few 24 and 48 hours, and
Yeah,
when I wake up in the morning and I drink coffee and water, I stay very, very hydrated. So
yeah,
I've noticed a pattern that when I go the whole day, usually around between, like, I would say like 11 and 2 p.m. is when the craving really kicks in, when I feel like, oh my gosh, I need to eat, I need to eat. But once you pass that and it gets to around 5, the window for me is 5 to 7 p.m. The level of clarity that I have, and I journal every day. So I noticed that in my journaling, I went back to referring to that. I was so clear during those 2 to 3 hours that it's like, oh my gosh, you don't
yeah.
even think about that, but the level of energy that you get and the clarity, and you feel smarter. You're like, fucking hell,
It's
man.
amazing. Listen, brother, we'll talk offline about this. I just did a 48-hour dry fast. Dry fasting is a whole nother level of clarity. It takes you to a place that's biblical, brother. It's like, and again, I'm going to try, play around with that, but it's unbelievable in terms of the clarity you get. That's with no liquids. You'd be surprised how much your body saliva and then it takes hydrogen from your body and your fat cells when you dry fast. Now, I'm not. Please, just a disclaimer: nobody go, 6 days without drinking water and die and then blame Gio and Talis on this podcast, but you've got to know what you're doing on this stuff. But
And you build up to it too. We
yeah,
we we didn't start doing a 24-hour fast. That's nearly impossible.
yeah.
But you got to build up, and you got to figure it out what works for you. To me, there's no.
You should try one. We'll talk about it. You should definitely try one. It's amazing.
I'm always looking for ways to improve, so that's something I would definitely like to talk about. Gio, I have two more questions,
Okay.
and they're going to be combined. So, what throughout your whole life lessons and your journey and everything that you've gone through, learned, breakups, and all of that, what advice would you give yourself and other people going through whatever they're going through right now? And the reason why I say it's two questions is, what advice would you give to your younger self, that Gio that moved out of England, that moved to Milan? And what advice would you give Gio that is 45 going 46?
Yeah, right. That's a really good question. So the first part, 100% I'd get my money right early. I'd forget women, forget partying. I did it all. the amount of money I spent on clubs, limos, and we'll leave it there. I don't know what the audience is like over the years, and without the knowledge of understanding of how to invest and all this stuff, right? So I would absolutely focus on that. I would have get my body right, my money. I mean, I was in shape back then to a degree, but I was partying, drink. It wasn't healthy. That would be the straight away. Get that right. Get it in place, right? And then you can really, fight and during that period, figure out your purpose. It may come, it may not, right? But
Yeah.
certainly work on finding it. I think unless you're looking for it, it's not going to come. I know my purpose has come now because I'm ready and I'm looking for it, right? So there it goes to the second part of the question. Follow your heart. Follow your heart. Like, I've been doing something that's made me feel like unethical. I wouldn't say unethical, but just like what I've been doing work-wise for the last 7 years. I've had no passion in it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it's doing anything for me or for the people, you know what I mean? So that is where I'm at right now. And I've given myself this advice. Gio, now, if not now, then when? If not now, then when?
Yep.
You
Yep.
cannot be a talker. You have to be a doer. And that's got me to where, that's probably a big part of, what was the breaking point. I'm not saying that one thing, and I'm saying it's all my fault, but definitely played its part in a relationship. And even with my kids, they start seeing, dad's become, is dad doing or is he talking? You
Mm-hmm.
get what I mean? So the advice is now, if I've lost my word with anybody around me, that shit's gone. Like, if I say I'm doing something, I'm doing it. So, and again, this is for me more than anyone else. But obviously, I want you as a friend to know that if I say I'm going to do something for you, you can count on me, right? Because that's all we have is our word, right? So that's the new Geo, is make sure that your actions are backing up your word, right? And like I say, double down. Now I'm doubling down. I'm never, ever, ever am I going to go back to a place where I give up on myself, ever.
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. I love it. Gio, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time, sharing, being vulnerable, teaching us the real side of living. It's not perfect and it's not supposed to be perfect. We're here to evolve, to get better, to learn. And I really feel like what we just did here will help a lot of people that they might be going through some hardships, through some tough and dark times. But just keep on going, keep on believing, believe in yourself, hold yourself to high standards, stay in the fight. One more day, one more battle, 1% better means I am not going to be perfect, but every day I'm going to take that goddamn step forward. I'm not going to beat myself over it again. What I did, I did. Did we mess up? Yes, of course we did. Did we do very, very stupid shit back in the day? Yes. Not just back in the day, we're still doing it, but we're learning. To me, that's the objective. Learn from your mistakes. Don't just forget about it and move on. Well, then you're not really evolving. To me, that's the point, is if the same situation presented itself again in front of you, would you behave the same way? Oh yes, I definitely would. Well, then you're not ready to learn yet. The moment that you view your past as you're grateful for it, you're like, wow, that's exactly what I needed. I didn't see it. I wasn't conscious. I wasn't aware enough. Now I come from a different place. Now I can see that everything was for my own benefit.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Any final words, any final thoughts that you want to share with us here?
Well, I would just say amen to that, and be open to the people that come into your life with a message, and the message you may give them. Like, why did we reconnect after all these years? You know what I mean? I see that as a blessing. And if you're closed off to that stuff doesn't happen. It's there every day for you to see, would be the final message. So stay open-minded, see what life sends your way. And all the things that have happened recently, absolutely didn't want them to happen, but I know that they needed to happen. And that would be my closing message.
Guys, thank you so much. If you're still here, if you're still listening, we appreciate you taking the time. Support our channel here, our podcast, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you all back next week. Thank you so much.